I think I'm on. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm on here. And this is my first time coming on, so I am going to really get started. My lighting, I am making sure okay, that's a little better. So, welcome to Mentally Magnificent, my YouTube channel. My name is Crystal Turner, and I come on this channel once a week, every week, to create content and to share insight on how we can heal from past experiences, challenges that have really kept us held back from our greatest in some shape, form, or fashion. Sometimes we don't even realize that. Sometimes we don't even realize that our challenges that we've had in the past are actually impacting us today. And so many times we don't even know when we're walking through life and having these challenges really where to start. And that's a big part of why Mentally Magnificent evolved in the first place, is because I had my own challenges, and I had a life that really I felt so vulnerable to, or I felt so much of life was difficult, and also that I was really the victim in my life. And so, even in the successes that I had, I always carried that perception of myself, that identity of myself. And it really did impact everything that was going on around me. It really came from what was going on inside of me first. So these mastermind sessions that we are having, these mastering your mind masterclass sessions are important because they really are dealing with how we really have this power in our mind and to use our mind to get us what it is that we really would want to have in life. And so much will be transpired through our working through that and having a knowledge of that. It'll be something that really does amaze you. So, today I do want to talk and share a little bit about me. And I want to ask you if you ever have felt held back from something in your past, but you just don't know what it was. Have you ever felt held back and you didn't know why? And this was definitely my experience. Yes, we get to create our life we want. Yes, Carol. But this was my experience in life, really feeling held back as an adult and not really being able to get to the gist of why. And I remember really going back and thinking of this now. It was 1980. And in 1980, I was just 5 years old. And I remember this particular Saturday morning being awakened to the sound of lively music playing, my mom cleaning up our home while she played her music. My dad was preparing food to put on the grill, and my three older siblings were helping to clean the house with their Saturday morning chores. And I remember very distinctly how happy and upbeat everyone was. And what was going on is it was time for our family get together. And this is where my parents would invite our family and their closest friends over for a party that we would have every so often. And I at that time was growing really accustomed to this whole tradition. And I took on this take charge attitude as a young girl. So I got up and I would go behind my mom this day, tidying up all the things that she had already cleaned. I would boss my older siblings around to make sure they were getting their work done. And then I would ask my dad or really beg my dad to let me help him cook the food on the grill because I was so excited to have a good time. And we did have a good time that evening as our house shortly was filled with people all over the house having separate conversations, a lot of laughter, good food, good music. And I remember it was laughter until the last guest left that night. And after they left, I hugged my mom, I kissed my dad, and I climbed in bed and laid down to go to sleep. And I remember thinking, this was such a good time. And I drifted off to sleep until I was awakened to this alarming noise that I didn't recognize. And I thought to myself, is that dad that I'm hearing? And why is mom crying? I was literally being awakened to the fact that my family was dealing with domestic abuse. And as these occurrences became more frequent, it impacted me. I mean, I was literally was this was literally my first real introduction to fear. And as we continued to have these occurrences began to happen more and more, my fear grew. And it really impacted how I looked at my family, my dad, and how I felt about the future. I remember literally being so impacted that I would think about my social interactions and I would always fear, will people accept me? When it came to my dreams and aspirations, I remember thinking, am I good enough? And when it came to my future, I found myself wondering, what's going to happen to me? My whole perception started being shaped by this fear, not really having the awareness of why. And I remember not wanting to feel that fear anymore and doing all the things that life says you should do in order to feel better. Or I'll say all the things that society tells us we should do in order to feel better. So I deeply invested in my education and I went to college. I graduated and started a new career. I got a new car, bought a new condo, I had children, I got married, bought a larger home. But I always remember after every accomplishment died down, I was met back with those same emotions of fear and inadequacy. And I remember it getting so strong that I asked myself, how can I get rid of these emotions that are crippling me? They're really haunting me, is how I felt. And there's this African proverb that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I remember lessons began to be showing to me constantly from every direction. I was dealing with a lot of emotional eating. That's kind of how I dealt with my emotions at that time. And I remember the first lesson that came to me was a friend who was dealing with some health issues, wanted to start a plant based diet. And supporting them, I went on that journey with them and changed my diet, got a new recipes, all these things to really eat in a more healthy way. And as I did it, I was thinking, I'm going to support a friend, but I'm also going to lose some weight. What I really noticed first was that my mood was not as depressed and my anxiety had decreased. And that automatically caught my attention and it made me want to know more about holistic approaches to my health and to my mental well-being. And so as I studied more about holistic health and different aspects of holistic health, I came across African centered principles and metaphysical principles that really talks about how you can use your mind as a tool rather than allowing your mind to use you. And so as I started applying these principles to my life, I remember becoming more uh, outgoing with life, to play more with life, and also to take more chances. And so that depression got replaced with a better understanding of life, and my fear got replaced with being more outgoing and taking more chances. And I really remember realizing at that moment that the domestic abuse that I was raised in really shaped uh, my vision of life. I moved in life from a picture of fear, and it shaped all of my interactions. It shaped so much of my relationships, so much of how I dealt with myself and how I viewed the world. And also realized in that same moment that holistic health and its principles had the power to give me a broader experience in life and an entirely different experience in life. That I was able to create a life that I wanted um, as long as I began to create a new vision. And I was able to have the courage to do that at this point. And so I really want to pose that to you. There's a quote by George Adair that says, "Everything that you want is on the other side of fear." And I really encourage anyone to allow holistic health and its principles to be the guide as you are stepping into a new way of being and healing the aspects of yourself that you might not even recognize you needed healing from, but you may know that you've had some limitations. And so that is what this mastermind is going to be about. It's going to be about how can you create the life you want from a holistic standpoint, from you, utilizing what you have access to right now in your own beingness? What do you have access to that can really impact your life? I know that there are times I work in mental health. I'm a nurse practitioner in psychiatry. And so I do diagnose people with mental health conditions. I do prescribe medications, but I have so many patients that I see who always ask, will I have to be on medication the rest of my life? And I never have any absolutes for that because what I've come to realize is so many of us, when it comes to our mental well being, we haven't been taught in society how to master our emotions. We haven't been really taught about having a diet that can really impact our mental well being. And even in a spiritual sense, I'm not really coming from a religious sense, but even in a spiritual sense, to understand that this spiritual part of us really is sort of like the thing that can take us through this hero's journey, that we can ascend in life. We can see ourselves at one point and then see ourselves rise to a whole nother aspect of ourselves through a spiritual process. And so I think that it's really important to talk about that, to go through some of the steps that really can take you to see where your power really does lie. Oftentimes, we look outside of ourselves with the hope that someone can save us or that someone can transform our life, but we have to be this active participant, even if this is what we want for our life. So the first thing that we'll really get into as we're doing these mastermind sessions is awareness of who it is that we are and what it is that we are experiencing and how it is that we're showing up, how our past challenges can really be impacting us today. As I said earlier, oftentimes we don't even have an awareness that the things that we're experiencing today and the way that we're showing up today has a connection to challenges. Um, we just know that we're not happy with how we feel. So even if that's what it is, if you're not happy with how you feel, if you're not happy with where your life is, if you really feel like life has dealt you a sour hand, or I don't know if that's the right term, but if life has really dealt you a bad hand in life, I would encourage you to step into these mastermind sessions that I'll be doing because we'll be talking about different aspects of how you go through that process to really create the life that you desire to have. So, in the comments, you can let me know, is there an aspect of life that you are looking to improve? You are looking to rise above? Because that is what we'll be doing every Thursday. I'll come on, and that is what we'll be doing on Thursdays, talking about it, exploring those things, and ultimately um, seeing what the next steps will be to be in that space. So, my name is Crystal Turner. I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner who has gone holistic because I know to be whole is to be healed. Now, I will look forward to chatting with you again next week, Thursday. It's a busy week for me. I'm sure you see the balloons in the background. My son has graduated from high school. We just had his prom yesterday. Have two other major events for him this week, which has me on my toes. So I look forward to talking to you on the other side of this next week, Thursday. Take care. Bye.